Welcome to Golden Mastermind Seminars Radio with your host, Jeffrey Combs.
Jeffery Combs, President and Founder, Golden Mastermind Seminars Incorporated. Welcome to Tuesday, Facebook Live. Great topic today. I've covered this topic many times in my career. It's a very underdeveloped topic, and there's seldom any books or content written on it. And I will direct you to a few places where there are resources. So it's good to be here with you on the first Tuesday of October, year of our Lord, 2023. Breathe, release, and let go. Continue to learn your breathing skills, be able to breathe up and release, and be able to use that word release to affirm that you are releasing. Good to be here with you. Lynn, good to see you. My mother-in-law, Ramilda Freitas, is joined here. Good to be here with you on Tuesday, Facebook Live. Topic for today's Facebook Live is a very underdeveloped topic. There's seldom any content written on it, no books. I'm one of the few people that cover it. It is called receiving. We are conditioned to give, but seldom are we skilled at receiving. And receiving shows up if you're in a business that requires sales skills. It's going to be your responsibility to be comfortable with asking, deserving, and receiving. So receiving and deserving are going to fall into some of the same energy, a very underdeveloped topic. And this affects many people when it comes to asking for commitments, asking for the order, asking for the sale, because of the uncomfortability with deserving, receiving, money, responsibility, and other stories that are manufactured and created based on events that shape the feelings. Here's one resource that I do recommend, Stuart Wilde, The Little Money Bible. And it is a great resource, especially the chapter on finding flow. The objective is to be in a place where you're in the flow, prospero in the flow. Two men that I followed early in my career, which was the great Phil Lott and Frederick Lehrman. And incidentally, interesting enough, I became Phil Lott's coach for a couple of years. Later in his career, Phil Lott wrote the book Money is My Friend, which I actually bought the rights to that book and then sold 10,000 copies of it. And I reformatted the book on two different occasions. Phil died and my contract ran out with Phil after 10 years. But in a 10-year period, I sold 10,000 books of Money is My Friend without ever having a contract. It went specifically to my database. And even that book didn't really cover receiving, but both Frederick Lehrman, who I met in 1996, and I purchased his audio course called Prosperity Consciousness. And that was the first content that I've ever heard of. That was the first real content that I'd ever listened to or read about money other than investing. Now, I'd bought investing books, been to investing seminars, but I'd been in network marketing at that time for 6 years full-time and 2 years part-time, but still did not really understand dialogue with money. My dialogue with money is improving. And then I came up with the term prospermations and began to include them in my affirmation card deck, More Heart Than Talent. And then I began teaching money skills myself over the course of my career. I did share a video, very short yesterday. I took it down, but it was a video of G. Edward Griffin and me in 2010. Old videos don't show up well in the algorithm. They hardly get any traction, so occasionally I'll put one up. But this is one of G. Edward Griffin and me in 2010. And in 2010, back then, 13 years ago, G. Edward Griffin, who's the author of the book, The Creature from Jekyll Island, The History of the Federal Reserve Banking, he said, do your best to get out of FICA money and move into gold, silver, magnesium, precious metals, and other assets. And this was 2010, so there's a lot happening in the world today. Tomorrow's October 4th. I've been getting messages today on what does that actually mean? What does the EBS mean? It means whatever it means, but open your heart to receive today. Be in receive mode. Be a receiver. Be a transmitter and a receiver. Be open to receiving. And see, many people are shut down when it comes to that because receiving is a contradiction. It contradicts giving for many people. They're not comfortable with receiving because they're not good enough, and a multitude of stories and feelings that people hold on to. And this is why many contractors have challenges collecting their own money. They'll have receivables out there. I coach one man who has a large business, and recently, this year, I found out from him in coaching, he had 1.2 million in receivables. And I taught him how he himself had to be his own collector. And I asked him who he had collecting his money. And he had someone in his business collecting money that wasn't the qualified person. And in one coaching call, I assisted him and I gave him a script on to go out to the top 3 people that owed him money. And in that week alone, he collected $105,000. He was absolutely in awe of his own ability to go out and ask for what was his. And initially he was afraid that the clients would be upset with him. Like, dude, these people owe you $35,000 each. They all owe you $35,000 or right around $30,000 each. And he was uncomfortable in asking for his money. He was afraid that they wouldn't want to do business with him. Well, they were in the rears. I looked at his books on this. One of them was in the rears 90 days, one was 5 months, and one was 6 months, and he was uncomfortable in asking for his money. This is a commonality that many people experience about their uncomfortability with receiving. So today's affirmation, you can tell yourself, I am a great receiver. I spoke to a client of mine, Gary. I met Gary in 2000 in Wichita, Kansas. And Gary became my client. He ended up going through my entire course over an 8-year period, coached with me for several years. He reached out and he sent me an email, said, Jeff, I just became a millionaire in my own business. He had been an electrician for someone else. He went from Wichita to Phoenix, and now he owns his own business. And he let me know just last Friday that he officially became a millionaire. And he used to write poems for him, and he wrote me a poem about the 8 years that he spent with my coaching client. And he one of the statements he said is, Jeff, I was never skilled at receiving, asking for money. I was a wage earner, a blue-collar worker, and now I'm a millionaire. And he is comfortable in receiving and asking and billing for his money. So he's actually selling his value. Paige, good to see you this afternoon. David Jones, Valerie, good to see all of you here. David Harris on 2 for Tuesday. The topic for today's Facebook Live is open to receiving. Catherine Ponder wrote the book, The Dynamic Laws of Prosperity and Open Your Heart to Receive. So right there is the syllabus. That is the email from open to receiving. So when you're open to receiving, what it means is that you're comfortable. You're in comfort, and you're able to receive. And now this shows up in compliments. And I wrote a post on this yesterday about your ability to receive a compliment. Now, there are people, when you offer a compliment, they will say things like, why would you say that? Because they are shocked to receive a compliment. And so they will when a person does this, it means they're so uncomfortable in receiving a compliment that they put the person on the defense who's offering the compliment, and they'll say, why would you say that? Instead of saying, oh my God, thank you so much. I'm open to receive. I really appreciate that compliment. And this is how many people sabotage their relationships, because they are not comfortable in receiving. It also shows up in relationships in intimacy, where people will say, well, I'm not good enough for this person. They'll probably cheat on me, or they probably have a lot of other women, or they have other men. So the uncomfortable person, person who's uncomfortable with receiving, will then create a story to sabotage their success, to fulfill the neurochemical craving. Now, the neurochemical craving, that means the fight or flight reflex, the fight or flight response that most of the world lives in, to sabotage their success so that they can receive the payoff. This is the most challenging context and content that I teach, is that many people don't understand their own payoff. What it means is, and I'll just break it down for you, it means we recreate the same situation to fulfill the same feelings. Lynn Ann Morey is on today's Facebook Live. Lynn is my client. She's known me for many years, rehired me last year, came to my advanced event, Millionaire Blueprint. Now, in that event, myself and Josh Moran spent 3 hours on breaking down the autonomic reflex of fight or flight that leads to the payoff. The payoff means do the same thing, get the same result, be disappointed, what it means. Then the analytical egoic mind, that's the brain that processes, that thinks, that rationalizes, that justifies, that explains, will stay in this state to recreate the same situation. It's a neurochemical craving. Now, what that means is, it means that even though you don't want it, you expect it and you create it to fulfill that feeling. And underneath that all is not good enough, and a deep anxiety about success and a deep anxiety about being responsible. So in money, there's a law of the lid. Most everyone lives in the law of the lid because they can't imagine. They can't see themselves. They have challenges visualizing being outside of that uncomfortable, comfortable zone. And so they will stay in the same situation to recreate the same set of feelings. It shows up in dating. I'm also a dating coach. I assist people to understand that if you don't change the behavior, if you don't change the wiring between the brain and the body, you'll attract the same men and the same women to fulfill the same set of feelings. So if you have narcissistic parents, if you're an adult child of narcissistic parents, adult child of alcoholics, or you are traumatized, victimized, abused, whatever the situation is that creates your feelings of low self-worth, not being good enough, you'll attract mates, teammates, soulmates, and other people that will fulfill those feelings without having clear boundaries, driven by guilt and resentment. And the more you understand your worth, you're worthy, that's your ability to receive love, give love, receive money, receive compliments, receive accolades, receive God, receive all of it. You're open to receive, but when you're shut down, not good enough, it hinders the flow of life. The universe will reward you when you let go of your low self-esteem, when you let go of not being good enough, when you let go of procrastination, avoidance. Avoidance and procrastination is a major component of the payoff because you recreate the same situation to fulfill the same set of feelings. And the more that you understand the cause and the effect of why you do what you do, then you'll understand this term. Now, this is a Louise Hay term. I've been using her affirmation since 1989. No longer the mind-body connection to the events that shape the feelings. Ted Hannick is on today's Facebook Live. I did a Zoom with Ted last Friday. I highly recommend you follow his content. He has some of the best graphics on Reels of anyone I've seen. And in a 6-month period, Ted took his Instagram, Facebook alone, to 93 new viewers, 93,000. So in 6 months, Ted has 93,000 followers by using his Reels, and now he is open to receive. Now, when I first met Ted, he was shut down. Now today, he is able to create 5-figure monthly income, attract a complete new following through his Reels and videos. Follow him on Instagram. Look at his Reels on Facebook. They're amazing. Now, I will tell you, he had an advantage. He used to be an artist with The Simpsons and won an Emmy with The Simpsons. He also understands what all that means, the Simpson pre-programming. So Ted's fascinating. He understands. He's one of us. Those of you who are down the rabbit hole with Heather and me, right, Heather? You go, Heather. So Ted really understands what all that preemptive trauma-based programming was all about. And many of the terms they use, September 23rd, October 4th is another term. 9/11 was another situation that was pre-programmed. So Ted was part of that. So Ted said, I'll be lecturing on media mind control tomorrow night. Ted, go ahead and, if you will, Ted, go ahead and post how people can follow you. Now, Ted, as I said, Ted was an Emmy award-winning contributor to The Simpsons. He walked away from Hollywood. He no longer wanted to carry that hollow staff of black magic in the world, and he is living in his higher power right now. He's a father of 2, completely self-employed, in free enterprise, creating traffic. Shri, good to see you this afternoon. Jennifer Nicole, Susan Dampier, always Susan, my girl. Great to see you on today's Facebook Live. And that was a beautiful picture, Susan, of you and Sean. Always good to see you, Heather. Thank you for your referrals. Thank all of you for being here this afternoon. Breathe, release, and let go. Jennifer Nicole Brewer, good to have you here. So Ted has posted how you can find him. Now, if you watch if you start to watch the videos and reels that Henry Klauke and we are creating, Ted is my coach. Ted is my video coach. Ted crushes it. Ted, I'm giving away some of your insight here. Ted isn't typically a coach, but I hired him myself because if he can attract 93,000 followers, I want to know what he's doing. So I am open to receive. So we are doing that. Susan, good to see you, my girl. You're crushing it in life out there. Many of you are out there in crush mode. It's so good to see you here. And if you're not receiving right now's the time to turn the volume up. You open up the receive channel. You open up your heart to receive. You open up the pineal gland. The pineal gland is where you receive consciousness. That gets shut down by the brain fog created by the hippocampus. That's right there. The amygdala that's inside there. That's the emotional search engine that searches for feelings. So when you're addicted to a set of feelings like anger, hate, resentment, guilt, shame, abandonment, rejection, overwhelmed feelings, grief, apathy, and pride, when you're addicted to those feelings, then your amygdala enlarges, your hippocampus enlarges, your amygdala shrinks, your prefrontal cortex enlarges. That is called brain fog. And so that means your ability to discern and decide is hindered by how overwhelmed you are. In the pinball machine that's going off in there, you're not crazy, you have brain fog. And you have challenges focusing, not because you have ADD, but because you have challenges focusing because of how overwhelmed you've lived. And so your body has not had time to relax because it's been in such hypervigilance. As you grow up in a child, as an adult child of narcissists, adult child of alcoholics, and other dysfunction, and then you're criticized and not good enough. Or if you grow up in a household where men and women are going, there's multiple addicts and there's multiple addictions going on. If you grew up in these type of households and you're this brilliant child, but you're in this constant state of unpredictability, that's where we become addicted to a set of feelings. If you're worried all the time, if you lose your innocence as a child, being a grown-up, taking care of your parents, if you get groomed by a parent, like many of my clients have, to be their therapist, their boyfriend, their girlfriend, their husband, their father, their confidant. If your mother is telling you secrets about your father or vice versa, you're going to be overwhelmed. It's not your fault. It's your responsibility, though, at some point to understand that I am a grown man and grown woman, and I no longer deserve to live like this. If you've lived through multiple addictions and the pain is great enough, now is a great time to receive the message that the pain is great enough and that you no longer have to live like this. If you have been in a constant state of affairs and people and men and women that have drama and trauma and chaos, now is a great time to find that emotional space, that emotional sobriety, where the pleasure isn't worth the pain. The pain is great enough where you can step in there and receive your best self. Receiving is a skill. You want to be able to use the affirmation, I am open to receive. Catherine Ponder wrote great books in the 50s and 60s. The Dynamic Laws of Prosperity, Open Your Heart to Receive, was another great book of hers. I highly recommend them. It's classic content on really putting yourself in a position to the mind-body connection to the events that shape the feelings. It means you're virtually creating a separation where you can receive rather than stay in lack. You can receive, you can attract. I've been coaching network marketers, insurance agents, real estate agents for 26 years on the skills of receiving. For those of you who come to my Millionaire Blueprint in December, I will have one client there, Susie, who is an amazing woman. Susie lives in Kauai, a island that has very small inventory in real estate, some of the smallest inventory in America, but yet it's like the smallest inventory, highest price point per capita. She has sold 3 8-figure properties. So 8-figure properties, that means she has sold 3 $10 million properties in the last 2 years in an area code, zip code, that has very small inventory. I mean, she has a niche and a knack for it. Her son Gavin was my client for 3 years. Gavin was a top 10 world-class surfer from Kauai. So Gavin Gillette was his name, world-class surfer. Susie Gillette's my client. She's going to speak. Susie just took up golf 3 years ago. She's already a scratch golfer, exceptional golfer, after experiencing a stroke and was in a wheelchair for 3 months. An amazing woman in her 60s, and she is very skilled at real estate. So she'll be at that event, and she'll be sharing the stage with me. I'm looking forward to being able to have you experience a woman of that influence and affluence who's been from rock bottom to top-tier real estate agent with Sotheby's International. Breathe, release, and let go. No longer the mind-body connection to the events that shape the feelings. Young Josiah Fellaini has joined me. Josiah is a teenager and the son of Scott Fellaini, who's also joined me. Great to see both of you here this afternoon on Facebook Live. Open your heart to receive today. Open my heart to receive. Put yourself in receive mode. I am a skilled receiver. Use the affirmation. I am open to receive. Put yourself in that space and attract your reality. Quality, like-minded, then fill in the blank. Clients, customers, teammates, soulmate. Fill in the blank with what you're open to receive. And do your best to stay out of doubt and worry and what you're going to do if they show up. Be open to receive. Be in the present. Be in the moment. Put yourself in receive mode. You will be the law of the few. Very few people understand this content. You can be that ambassador of change. You can go out in goodwill, be able to teach others the skills of receiving. Let go of your scarcity, anxiety about the outcome that hasn't happened. And if you are on my email list, I covered here some of the bullet points of the topics that I covered. So you want to have equal balance between giving and receiving. Typically, there's a big separation between giving and receiving. It's usually 90-10 and 80-20. You want it to be 50-50. Breathe, release, and let go. If you're on today's call and you would like to speak to me regarding one-on-one coaching and you're a former client, I have a 24-hour coaching value that I will be honored to speak to you regarding. If you're a first-time client and would like to have a free 20-minute coaching session, reach out to me in Facebook Messenger. I would be honored to speak with you. Thank you very much, everyone. You have an outstanding afternoon tonight. I'll be back here later at 9 p.m. Pacific. Open your heart to receive.